Hey everyone, welcome to our Give to the Max Facebook Live. I'm Kelsey, one of the interpretive naturalists here at the Raptor Center, and with me is a bald eagle that we call Max, who is currently working on a nice chunk of fish here. She's gonna get started on that. I'll switch the camera over for a little bit closer up view of her, but I wanted to share with you a little bit about Give to the Max before we got started. We're gonna be seeing this bird up close, and then we're actually gonna go on a bit of a tour through our education bird courtyard area. So we're gonna see a couple of birds up close and personal and see kind of where they've been spending their time here all kind of summer, fall long, and then throughout the winter. A few things about Give to the Max Day. If you're not familiar, you can check out the link in the description of this video, or we can drop it in the comments as well, to check out our main donation page and learn more about our fundraising goals. All of the gifts donated today through that website link are going to be matched by a variety of donors. The Acorn Charitable Trust, the Rachel Hallstatt Foundation, and the Sarah J. Anderson Fund of the Hugh J. Anderson Foundation are all helping us match those funds that are raised today. So today is a great day to help support the Raptor Center. Most of the work that we do here is supported by donations from the public, by philanthropy, and we're very hungry. By philanthropy. As you can imagine, the 1,000 or so wild raptors that we're seeing down in the clinic every year are not usually leaving their forwarding addresses for their medical bills, so we are usually covering all of those. So we are doing that by using the generous support of all of our friends here in the public. So thank you all so much for supporting us, especially this year. You know, it's been a pretty rough year for everyone out there, so we are so thankful for all of your support. I'm going to turn the camera around here so you can see her a little bit closer up. So you can see her a little bit closer up. I have some more fish for her here. So this is our very hungry resident female bald eagle here at the Raptor Center. Thank you for dropping that link there. She's really ready to go. I have some wonderful northern pike for her that she's working on. So I'm just gonna put that over there so she can work on that. And it fell down, so it's okay. We're gonna watch her get it. So she's got this nice chunk of fish. We're going to watch her actually use these excellent adaptations that raptors have to work on this nice chunk of fish. And there we go. Lots of good food. She's got some rat in the mix for today as well. So she's using her three main adaptations that all raptors have to really work on these. So she has, of course, excellent eyesight for finding her food. But what she's really using a lot of right now are actually her feet with these curved, strong talons. These sharp claws on her feet. They're actually, if you feel your fingernails right now, your fingernails are made out of the same kind of keratin as these talons. So just like your fingernails and toenails, these talons are always growing and always staying nice and sharp. And then of course, this curved sharp beak is very important. You can see how she's holding onto her food with her feet and then using that curved sharp beak to actually tear her food into pieces. So she's using that curved sharp beak for exactly what it is really designed for, is really ripping apart food. So for bald eagles, this can be anything from fish. It's kind of what they're mainly looking for and trying to catch out in the wild. But they might also be scavengers, a really important role out in the environment where they might be dealing with dead carcasses from either deer or other animals that they found. They might be stealing fish from other predators, including other bald eagles or other osprey. So they're definitely serving a really important role out in the environment, both by helping to control the population of fish, along with a lot of other animals. And then they are also serving as those scavengers, helping dead animals to decompose in areas where we don't have our big bird scavengers like bald eagles and vultures. A dead carcass of something like a dead deer might take about 4 times as long to decompose. So having these big flying scavengers around to really help break into those and help break them up into smaller pieces and make those larger carcasses accessible for smaller animals to help break down is really, really important for preventing the spread of diseases, all those really bad bacteria and other germs that might be developing inside of a dead animal. These birds are really helping to reduce those numbers down and help keep the rest of us all healthy. So they're really acting like our cleanup crew. This particular bird, you probably see a lot of if you're following the Facebook page here at the Raptor Center often. She's one of our kind of main program birds, both in person and now online. We've really converted over to doing a lot of online programs, and of course, Max here is phenomenal at all of them. So it's been really great to be able to bring people some really close-up views of these birds, being able to see all the details in these feathers, being able to see the scales on those feet so much closer up than we would really be able to in person. It's been really exciting to find new ways to bring the Raptor Center to people this year. So again, really, really grateful for everyone who's been supporting us as we've been kind of going on this new online adventure, trying to bring bird education and environmental education to a lot of different people, some kind of new and pretty exciting ways. I should also say too, since we're on Facebook Live, if people have any questions as we're looking around at these birds, feel free to put them in the chat so I can answer them for everybody. Love to be able to do that. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat and I'll answer them on this live video. So this is our, like I said, our female, resident female bald eagle. You can see the lights. Right now we've got this really interesting noon November light kind of coming through, kind of hitting her, those giant eyes. These birds' eyes are enormous. And for this bird, she's extra large since she is a female bald eagle. So her wingspan's getting closer to that 6-foot mark. She comes in at right around 10 pounds right now. Might get a little bit bigger as we get into the winter for keeping nice and toasty warm. In the raptor world, the girls or the females are generally larger than the males. So this bird is the largest bird that we have living with us here at the Raptor Center full time, is our resident female bald eagle. Oh, someone was asking, how old is Max and what is her history? Thank you. So this bird, she's 20 years old this year, and we know exactly how old she is since she was brought in as a first year or juvenile bird. I will say, somewhere in the background, we have a very loud American Kestrel, in case you're hearing that and wondering what that noise is. Unsure what we're yelling at. Maybe there's something happening outside of the enclosures there. But this bird was brought in as a first year or juvenile bird, and bald eagles don't actually get that white head and white tail or yellow beak and eyes until they're about 5 or 6 years old. They hatch out of an egg about a little bit bigger than a chicken egg, and they reach their full adult size in about 2 to 3 months, usually less than 3 months. They are full grown and ready to start flying. So they usually will live 20 or even 25 years out in the wild. So they go through a bit of a teenager phase. They have a lot of things that they need to learn before they're really ready to have a nest on their own or a territory. So they have a lot they need to learn. So they start off with all dark brown feathers with kind of some occasional white splotches around. And it takes about 5 or 6 years to get the full white head and white tail. So all of this is to say that we knew that this was a first year bird when she was first brought in. And this bird had somewhat of a complicated story. She had 2 main things going on when she was brought into the Raptor Center. She not only had injured her wing, she'd actually injured one of her kind of elbow joints, or kind of the bird equivalent of the elbow joint, but she also had a level of lead poisoning. So she actually had pieces of lead in her body that she had ingested or eaten, and they were really slowly poisoning her. Some of us are often familiar with lead poisoning. We think of things like lead paint in especially older homes, and we usually think of it in the context of generally younger people, just because of our size when we are kind of young children or toddlers. So this bird actually had lead in her body, and being only about 10 pounds, that lead, even the tiny, tiny pieces of lead, can cause some really major problems for these birds. So that lead kind of slowly gets into their system through their stomach. It's stored in the fat tissue in their bodies and kind of slowly releases from there and can cause a whole variety of bad effects, from everything ranging from their coordination, their motor control, their digestion, everything. So it can make that really, really difficult for them to survive. Generally, bald eagles are getting a lot of this lead, it seems, from spent lead ammunition from hunters. So deer hunting, of course, extremely important for keeping our deer population healthy, but a lot of folks are still using lead ammunition. And so what'll happen is that lead is a very brittle metal that'll break into lots of teeny tiny pieces when it hits a deer. And so if we are leaving those gut piles from those deer out in the woods with those tiny, tiny fragments of lead in them, it can they are usually eaten by bald eagles or other scavengers, and that's how they usually are getting that lead into their bodies, is that lead ammunition from hunting. So a great way actually to help out a lot of bald eagles, as well as ourselves and other wildlife, is if you are, or anyone in your kind of close circle are big into deer hunting, which again, very important, especially up here in kind of the upper Midwest. We have huge deer populations with very few natural predators. So that deer hunting is really important to keeping the environment really healthy. So if you have anyone in your circle who's doing that deer hunting, check in with them, see what kind of bullets they're using. Right now, there are lots of great alternatives to lead, such as copper ammunition. It works great, and the prices are reducing down as more and more people are using it, which is fantastic. So definitely really interested in hearing from if anyone here has been out deer hunting. I know the Minnesota opener was in the last couple of weeks, but that's kind of a main issue for bald eagles right now, and was certainly for this bald eagle about 20 years ago, that lead ammunition from deer hunting. So that is why she lives with us, is she was brought in with that wing injury and that lead poisoning. We were able to remove the lead from her system and help her deal with that, but that wing injury just did not heal quite the right way. So she's not able to fly as well as she would need to live out on her own in the wild. I saw a couple of questions earlier about their eggs. Someone was actually asking about if this bird had ever laid any eggs, which is a really interesting question. So this bald eagle, she only ever lives by herself. In fact, we'll go walk around here in a few minutes and we'll see some of the other birds, but you'll see that all of them live in their own enclosures. And a lot of that is because of how these birds are normally living out in the wild. Lots of noise. So normally out in the wild, a lot of these raptors, being top predators, they really don't want any competition living around them. So they're usually very solitary. They usually live by themselves for most of the year. The main exception is kind of if they have a nest and they're raising chicks, that's usually the only time that they're living with another member of their species. But for the rest of the year, they're really spending most of their time by themselves. So their natural history tells us that normally they do quite well on their own. And then the other thing is for safety. So a lot of times these birds, their enclosures with all of their different perches, and during the warmer months, their water pans and all the different toys and enrichment things that they get, all of that really becomes kind of their main space. So we don't really want to cause any competition there. We want to make sure that everyone is staying safe. So all these birds live by themselves. But on occasion, some of our female birds will, in the springtime, lay an egg or two, similar to a chicken egg that you might get at the store if you have chickens yourself, where there's the yolk inside, but there's no baby chick. Nothing's really going on in there, just something that their kind of bodies are telling them to do at that particular time of year. So this particular bird, having lived with people for about 20 years, we've seen her a few years now. I want to say maybe 4 times over the course of her time here at the Raptor Center. She has laid eggs. Last spring, actually, she laid 2 of them, which was very interesting. This particular bird, whenever she does lay eggs, she usually will look after it for maybe a day and then we'll just ignore it. So we'll usually leave it for a few days, and then she will kind of leave it alone, start ignoring it, and then we'll usually remove it after that point when she's no longer really paying much attention to it. So their eggs are a little bit bigger than a chicken egg. The closest I can give you a guesstimate on would be something like maybe a smallish avocado or a goose egg, something around that size, maybe a smallish orange. They're not particularly large, so it really is impressive that these birds are reaching that full adult size in just a few months. Really impressive. Again, that's a 6-foot wingspan for some of our female bald eagles here in the upper Midwest, even larger as you get further north up into Alaska and Canada. So they do get bigger the further north you go. So depending on if you're watching from elsewhere in North America, you might be looking outside. If you're seeing bald eagles, they might be a little bit different size than the ones we have here in Minnesota, since they tend to get larger the further north you go. So our friends down in Florida, their bald eagles are a little bit smaller, but hey, when you don't have to deal with sub-zero temperatures, you don't need quite the same kind of body mass to stay warm. I'm trying to give you one more kind of really good look at those feet and those talons. She says, maybe there's more food? So that's those feet that are perfect for grabbing fish right out of the water. The bottoms of their feet actually have scales that stick straight out called spicules. And so those spicules help them to actually grip onto those slippery, slimy fish. So earlier when I was trying to hand her with my hands, when I was trying to hand her a slippery, slimy fish that had been brought in by a very generous angler who had brought in some fish. It was really hard for me to hold on to, but for her, no problem. With those scales on her feet and those talons, she is very well equipped to deal with those slippery fish. So let's go take a look. Sorry, every time I move my other hand. Trying to get you a good view inside of her mouth as she's vocalizing. Every time I move my other hand that's kind of not holding my camera right now, I think she thinks, oh, it's time for more food, so I'm going to come over here. So what you were just hearing are the vocalizations bald eagles actually make. A lot of us are probably more familiar with that really intense screaming sound that we hear whenever we see a bald eagle on, a TV screen or the movie screen or things like that. But that sound that you're normally hearing played over bald eagles is usually the sound that a red-tailed hawk makes. This really high-pitched, nice screaming sound, this is what bald eagles actually sound like. And hopefully you got a really good view on the inside of her beak as she was vocalizing, so you could see their very kind of stiff tongue that they really mainly use just for kind of helping them shovel food down their throats so that they can digest it. So when she's eating all the parts of the animal and digesting all of that down in her stomach. Let me sneak through the comments. Oh, what are some of her favorite foods to eat? So bald eagles are typically hunting a lot of fish out in the wild. That's why we actually have so many of them here in Minnesota. Here in the Minnesota and kind of Wisconsin area, especially around the Mississippi River, has some of the largest kind of population density of nesting bald eagles in North America, which, since you can only find bald eagles in North America, means in the entire world. Though you do also see lots of them in places like Alaska and Florida, places where there are lots of sources of fish. But this particular bald eagle, I honestly think she tends to, if she's given the choice between the two, she'll usually eat the rat first. So she'll usually get a combination of fish or rat or sometimes chicken, depending on the day, just to get a nice variety in there. And yeah, usually if she has both available, she'll eat the rat first. So usually rat seems to maybe be the preferred food item for her. Oh, and then really good question. Caloric intake must be massive to grow that fast. What kind of quantity of food are they intaking for that growth rate? Oh my gosh, that is such a good question. So these birds are eating a ton of food. They are keeping their parents very, very busy as they're growing up. So on an average day, so to give you an idea of how much food they might need, this bald eagle, who is, she's not flying around like a wild bald eagle would. She has kind of more of this kind of hutch structure. So she has built-in shelter. She's not worrying about kind of searching for food or competing for anything. She's still eating about 300 grams of food today, so usually between 200 to 300, maybe a little bit more in the winter, which is about half of a pound of food. So that is kind of relatively lower caloric needs than some of her wild counterparts who are out in the environment might need. So those youngsters might be needing to eat, several fish in a day or some very large pieces of roadkill in order to really be able to kind of get through all of that. Curious maybe if any of our vets who I think are kind of monitoring the stream, if any of them have more precise numbers. But I can tell you that this bird, like I said, eating about half a pound of food a day, definitely more during those colder months. And I could see definitely needing closer to that kind of 3/4 to a pound of food if she were actively growing up, since those babies are going through tons of food. I will say, I'll give a shout out to our friends at the Minnesota DNR, have a phenomenal bald eagle nest cam whose season usually starts up around now as we kind of get into the winter months. Those bald eagles are usually returning to that nest and kind of sprucing it up. So this spring, if you're interested in seeing bald eagles in their nests, check out the DNR, our Minnesota Department of Natural Resources bald eagle nest cam. Now there are several other ones around as well, but for folks here in Minnesota, that is a great way to kind of get an insider look at those bald eagle nests, which are, of course, incredible to watch. Make sure I'm not missing any other questions. Let's go take a look at some other birds. We'll probably come back to her, and I'm sure we'll be hearing some noises. See if there's any more of that vocalization. All right, let's go see some other birds as we kind of walk around here. So here's her kind of enclosure. Here is the rest of the kind of courtyard area. We'll mostly stay out here. Try not to shake the camera around too much, but I would love to show you kind of a little bit of, we have some birds around here. These are all of our education birds. Oh, shucks, I just missed a wonderful rouse or kind of feather shaking out. Yeah, I want to show you some owls. Let's go take a look. We have always a favorite of mine to show people is one of our resident great horned owls, who's actually a subarctic great horned owl. But let's, someone's asking me to introduce myself. I will in just a moment. Let me see if I can get this close enough to see him well. Oh no, the mesh is not cooperating. Sorry, trying to do this one-handed is slightly tricky. There we go. Let's focus in, camera. There we go. We could hear some of those noises, I could tell. This is one of our other resident great horned owls who's doing that amazing vocalization that great horned owls are really known for. You can see that kind of white patch on his throat kind of expands as he vocalizes and makes that really classic hooting noise. The white patch is called a gular patch, which is a very fancy way of saying throat patch. But you can imagine for these great horned owls, try not to interrupt him. You can imagine for these great horned owls, when they're normally doing a lot of these vocalizations kind of around sunrise and sunset, they really need to be able to, hear what's going on, but being able to see each other is helpful too. So those white patches that kind of expand as they vocalize and hoot really help them kind of see where each other are, which is great, both for finding a mate, but also for telling other great horned owls. Great for telling other great horned owls, hey, this is my territory, you need to leave. So we'll leave him. We'll go see another great horned owl a little bit more close up. How was I holding this? Here we go. So let's go see, I was also asked, love to show people this great horned owl. I was also asked to introduce myself again for folks who are just joining us. So I am one of the Merlins heard me coming, I think. So I am Kelsey. I'm one of the interpretive naturalists here at the Raptor Center. So here we're part of the University of Minnesota. So I am one of the interpretive naturalists here. Come over here. There we go. So I'm Kelsey, and this is one of our resident great horned owls who we call Sam, short for Samantha. And this great horned owl is an amazing example of a few things. First off is the adaptations that owls have. You can see right now with the kind of really nice light that we have going on right now, you can see those pupils actually moving. You can actually watch her focusing her eyes as they get bigger and smaller. So owls have these incredibly large eyes. Actually, if you take your hand and make your hand into a fist and hold it up in front of your face, if we were great horned owls, that is how big our eyes would be. It's kind of proportionately, if you made a great horned owl the size of a person, their eyes would be about the size of an orange. So these birds have enormous eyes that are perfect for taking in as much light as possible, because they are normally hunting, again, kind of around sunrise or sunset. Oftentimes you will see them moving around a little bit at night, but great horned owls are really great for hunting kind of at that kind of dawn and dusk kind of transition time. Along with those incredibly large eyes, they also have some very large, impressive ears for the great hearing. Their tufts, go hang out over on this other perch. You can see the feather tufts on the top of her head. Those are great for camouflage, but aren't actually her ears. Her ears are giant holes on the sides of her head. Right behind, if you can see on the side of her face, she has these black lines on the sides of her face. That is actually where her ears are. There are enormous openings that take in a lot of sound. Can you come over here? I'm gonna give her a little chunk of food since I tapped on the perch, so that's how she knows it is time for her to come over and join us. Nice piece of food there. Let me give her a larger chunk to work on for us. There we go. So hopefully what we'll see is her either ripping that into pieces or possibly just swallowing it whole. So this is some rat that she's working on. I didn't realize how large this piece was when I was digging it out of my pouch. Sorry, everyone. She's trying to do it sideways at the moment, so she might have to readjust here. But she is going to be working on some rats. So these great horned owls, there we go, down the hatch. We're very determined to get that down. So great horned owls are excellent at hunting, like I said, sunrise and sunset, and they're normally looking for a lot of those small rodents and other small animals that are most active at those times, like rats, along with things like mice and rabbits, oftentimes squirrels. This is actually one of the few natural predators of things like skunks as well. They're also not very picky, so they'll branch out into eating snakes and lizards as well as other birds. So great horned owls are really well equipped between that excellent eyesight, that great hearing. They also, let me give you a view of these feet. They have these massive feet that are covered in these fluffy feathers to help protect their toes from both the animals that they're trying to catch as well as the branches or kind of thorns of any plants that they might be having to reach through. I'm sure it doesn't hurt with keeping them warm during the winter as well, since we do have these birds way far up north all winter long. So they have this great set of tools to help them find and catch, and then that, of course, curved sharp beak for eating their food. Like I said, usually a lot of smaller rodents, but they definitely can branch out into lots of different kinds of animals. You can find great horned owls all over North, Central, and South America. So we see them here, all the way up here in Minnesota, all the way up into Canada, all the way through most of the rest of the U.S., and then through Central and South America. Really anywhere other than really the Amazon rainforest is the main big chunk of land that you don't find great horned owls in. You find some more specialized owls living in those very intense rainforest habitats, but they're very adaptable to lots of different habitats, so they're eating lots of different foods. Ooh, do owls also scavenge? Was a question that came through on the chat, which is great and interesting question. For the most part, owls tend to prefer their food live. For the most part, I'm sure there are some owls out there who would not mind eating some already dead food, but for the most part, most owls are doing a lot of active hunting of live prey, since they really are relying a lot on that hearing along with their eyesight. These kind of what we call crepuscular or kind of sunrise sunset species like great horned owls can use their eyes to find their food as well, but a lot of owls are really truly nocturnal and hunting in the middle of the night where there really isn't much light to go off of, so they're really relying on their hearing. So of all of the kind of general raptor species or general groups, I'd say owls probably the least likely to do a lot of that scavenging. Though, if any of them were going to, great horned owls would probably be high up on the list of birds who would not mind eating something that was already dead. Of course, all of the birds here at the Raptor Center are getting food that is already dead. Usually most of our food we are actually getting frozen that is then thawed out. So these birds, they do adapt quite well to it, but for their wild counterparts who are out hunting, usually using a lot of hearing. I will point out too, this bird, I really enjoy showing her to people, especially since we were just looking at a different great horned owl who's making all those vocalizations. We'll probably see another one as we kind of walk around here to see maybe another bird or two. She actually is a subarctic subspecies of great horned owl, which is a very fancy way of saying that she is from very far up north. She was found here in Minnesota, but she looks very similar to the great horned owls that you might see all throughout kind of the northern parts of the US and up into Canada, where you can see that camouflage is much better suited for those colder climates, where you have lots of those very light colored trees like your aspen and your birch, a lot of those kind of paler pine tree species, along with all that increased snow. You can see the very light colors on her body are great for blending in with that kind of habitat. Whereas even down here in the Twin Cities area, a lot of our great horned owls are a lot kind of more brown and tan in color. We have lots more of those nice kind of darker brown deciduous trees like our maples and our oaks, and not as much snow year round. So we're not really needing to blend in as much with those lighter colors. So again, depending on where you are in their range, great horned owls can kind of come in a lot of different colors, which is always quite interesting. They do not have any real predators of their own. It's all about being able to sneak up on their prey. So having that great camouflage to sneak up as they are sneaking up on their food. I will also say too, if you're looking at her and you're going, oh my goodness, she looks so fluffy and soft, owl feathers are actually extra fluffy and soft. They have a thin layer of kind of fuzzy material, kind of fuzzy feather on top of their main feathers that allows them to fly almost silently. It kind of breaks up the wind. So when these birds are actually swooping down to grab onto a small animal, say a rat, for example, they're actually able to fly almost silently. So they're able to really sneak up on their food. So generally they are what we call an ambush hunter, where they're really using that camouflage to stay very well hidden, using their eyes and that incredible hearing to find their food, and then swooping down and grabbing onto it. I will also, while we're really close here, see if I can get a nice side view. Just trying to follow the camera. As she's looking around, though, you could see those kind of stiff bristle feathers on the sides of her beak. These owls' eyes are so large. They're so large that they can't actually move their eyeballs at all. So as you're watching her kind of look around at things going on, I think there might be a bird flying over us right now, since I just heard an American kestrel calling as well. And she's kind of looking up towards the window kind of mesh area. You can see she's not able to move those eyeballs, so she can't cross her eyes to look at things that are really close up. So in order to be able to kind of feel what's going on, owls have these nice kind of bristle feathers on the sides of their beaks to help them really feel what's going on. Maybe she caught a nice rat and needs to rip it apart. She needs to use those bristle feathers to really feel what's going on. And of course, you're seeing some examples of the great flexibility that these owls have in their necks as she's looking around. So owls can turn their heads about 3/4 of the way around. It's about 270 degrees. Most birds can turn their head. Oh, excellent natural behavior. Ready? Ah, amazing. In case anybody needed to see a great horned owl going to the bathroom today, there you go. So most birds can turn their heads about halfway around a circle. So that's like looking straight over their backs. But owls, because their eyeballs don't move at all, because they are so big, they are able to turn their heads a little bit extra farther, about 3/4 of the way around. So that really impressive rotation on their necks. They can do this for a couple of reasons. They have some very flexible joints in between the bones of their spine and their skull compared to ours. But we also all have, as mammals, we have 7 bones in the neck portion of our spine. These birds have twice as many. They have about 14. So they have very long, flexible necks, even though it doesn't really look like it because of all these fluffy feathers. But underneath those fluffy feathers, she has a very long, very flexible neck. I'm going to scroll through here and see if there are any last questions about our great horned owl. I want to make sure there's one more bird I would love to go and see, mostly because very colorful kind of raptor, and we've been hearing some of them in the background. I see some owl fans in the audience, which is excellent. So give you one more good view of these big feet and those talons. Again, these feet are incredibly strong. Great horned owls have some incredible grip strength, able to grab onto some of those larger animals, like I said, rabbits and even skunks, things like that. Made quite a mess with that big chunk of food earlier. See if I can get a water pan out here for her later. We're really lucky today. We're having a little bit of a warm spell here, so we can actually maybe get some water out here. Oh, a really good question. Yeah, first I'll point out, somebody was pointing out the toes, that they have 2 toes forward and 2 toes back. I have some amazing vocabulary words to share with you all. Maybe I'll type them into the chat later, or unless one of my compatriots watching might be able to type them in as well. Owl feet are what we call zygodactyl, which is a very fun word, a very fun way of saying 2 toes in the front and 2 in the back. With their outermost toe, this one that's hiding underneath the fluffy side kind of feathers here, that can actually rotate forward so that she can have 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back, depending on what she needs to be able to grip onto. So owls have zygodactyl feet. If you're wondering what you might think of as the typical bird foot with the 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back, that is called a nesodactyl. I'll type those into the chat here in a little bit. But most birds a lot of our raptors are a nesodactyl. And she is zygodactyl with the 2 toes in the front and the 2 in the back. And then somebody else actually asked, has she laid any eggs since being at the Raptor Center? I brought us into the 2 enclosures of the 2 birds who have actually done any egg laying here, who currently live here at the Raptor Center. This bird also has on occasion laid a few eggs the last few years. This bird has actually lived at the Raptor Center for 27 years. She's at least 20 years old. Oh, thank you for adding those in, who's ever writing that in the chat. So this bird has lived here for 27 years, and for the vast majority of that had never laid any eggs. And then through a lot of great public support, we were able to build these new enclosures here with these much more modern materials than our previous enclosures had. This amazing outdoor space. You can see how it's kind of partially covered on the walls and kind of the ceiling, so that birds have the ability to kind of be out of the rain and out of the snow, but then still partially open. So we got lots of fresh air moving around. A really great setup we were so excited to do. Now, this was several years ago now. Once we moved into these new enclosures, we actually have, over the last few years, this bird has laid eggs, I think the 3 out of the last 4 years that we've been out in these new enclosures, which has been very interesting. So a great testament to kind of the really great setup that we have here. So yeah, it definitely has been very interesting with this particular bird. So yes, we have now in the chat, the most recent comments are how you can spell anisodactyl and zygodactyl. Some great sites. I always, anybody who's been following Reading with Raptors, our Facebook Live reading with a bird event that we do every week on Tuesdays, knows that I can hardly make it through one without mentioning the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, who has some great bird resources. But there are other ways that bird feet are arranged, some truly magnificent ways that birds have adapted to their environment. So I would check out their website. I know that they have some great resources on other types of bird feet, if anyone is interested. See if I can find a link to that at some point. But the Cornell Lab of Ornithology is at allaboutbirds.org. They have some great resources, including all of the different cool ways that birds have their toes arranged. So let's go meet one more bird here up close. We're going a little bit of a walk here. This will bring us through most of the enclosures. Like I said, trying to walk around somewhat smoothly here. We have a bald eagle here. Kind of over here, we have a red-tailed hawk moving around. I'll kind of walk around the long way. I'll show you actually here in the middle. Recently we moved out kind of as the fall got started. We actually normally are growing small trees in these gravel beds, which has been really fantastic. Gravel beds help trees really focus on root growth for transplanting. So we've actually been working with the Mississippi River Coalition and folks at the kind of preserves there along the Mississippi to be able to grow baby trees here at the Raptor Center to help restore a lot of those riverside habitats, since those habitats are really important for keeping healthy and preserving our riverbanks from erosion and providing habitat for not only raptors, but a lot of other animals' habitats. So we want to make sure that we are doing our part to help support those as well. We'll look at this peregrine falcon while I swap out my food here. Let me see if we can get a little bit closer. I don't know how comfy she is with the camera, but nope. My mistake. She looked somewhat comfy for a moment, and then I got just too close. My apologies. We'll leave her alone. It was too close. So let's go see with a bird who's a little bit more experienced with a camera. Here's some behind-the-scenes views here as we've been working on fixing up all of our perching. We have some noisy birds here. An American Kestrel. We're going to go visit another one in particular, since we should be able to offer him some nice pieces of food here. Let's go take a look. You can see here in this kind of big tree. Here we go. Sorry for slight awkwardness with the camera while I'm moving the door around. So this is a male American Kestrel. You can usually tell because of the different colors. Most raptors really don't have too much of a difference. Do you want to just come over here? Most of them don't have too much of a difference between the males and females, or the boys and the girls, in terms of appearance. Generally, the females are larger, but that can be kind of tricky to tell. You want to just sit up there? So this one, American kestrels are kind of an exception. They are much more brightly colored than a lot of other raptors are. Tend to be kind of more on the brown, kind of gray scale in terms of colors. But American kestrels here, they are the smallest falcon in North America, and they have these amazing colors. So the males have these bright bluish gray wings, and they have these polka dots on their kind of lower tummy. We're really interested in figuring out what we need to do in order to get some food. So I'll give him a few pieces of food here in a minute. The females have generally more kind of stripy bellies and brown and black stripes on their wings. So you can see some really great details. This particular American kestrel has some really lovely colorations, especially on his back. You can see the kind of blue and the brownish kind of reddish color. They also have these really fantastic stripes underneath their eyes. Anyone who's a big sports fan probably recognizes something very similar to the eye black that a lot of athletes will oftentimes have. Let me see if I can give them a few pieces here. Very hungry. So those dark stripes under their eyes are really common for falcons, something that a lot of times people will ask me what the difference is between a falcon and a hawk. One of the easiest ways to actually tell when you're looking at them is often those dark stripes. You'll see those oftentimes on falcons. Not unique to falcons. Often people will point out that you can find these on a lot of other animals, such as cheetahs or things like seagulls, things like that, who are usually doing a lot of very high-speed flying in big open areas with not a lot of shade. So these falcons are generally flying around in big open grassland areas in the middle of the day. So they need these nice stripes that we call malar stripes, which are perfect for kind of acting like built-in sunglasses. It's a great view of the back of that very long tail. You can see the very pointy wings and the very long tail. Come over here. So really important for falcons to have very pointy wings for really building up high speeds. And then they also have the very long tail that is great for actually helping them steer if they are tucking in their wings and diving down. For American kestrels, they're also using their tails kind of as a little bit of a rudder when they are hovering. They're actually able to hover by flying into kind of oncoming breezes. So you'll be able to actually see them. We're up here now. So you'll actually be able to see them hovering. Let me see how high up I can get this. A little bit of backlight here. I'll see if I can ask him to come back down. There we go. Got a little bit of food. Nothing? I've got tiny little pieces left. So they're able to use that tail for a lot of that kind of steering and hovering action. So that tail is really, really valuable. You can see even though he's quite small, he still has all those same adaptations or features as... Sorry, I'm loving the comments that are popping up as I'm talking. You can see all the same adaptations that other raptors have. That excellent eyesight. Even though they're tiny, he still has feet with those talons. And of course, that curved sharp beak, perfect for ripping food into pieces. Someone pointed out that he was doing a little bit of what we call mantling, or kind of hiding his food. Absolutely. He's going, I'm hungry. I want to make sure that I, Kelsey, am not going to steal his food or anything like that. We worked hard for that food. I was trying to angle the camera up so you could see the amazing below view of a American kestrel going to the bathroom also. And then somebody also asked why he's doing all this tail bobbing. So this is something that is really typical of American kestrels. They do a lot of head bobbing and a lot of this tail flicking. So we'll see them doing that, especially when they're kind of really paying attention to something. I don't have a really great way to describe it without getting too kind of what we call anthropomorphic. I don't want to assign any kind of particular human type emotions or anything. But generally I'll see this when he is, we're doing some sort of training, either flight training or right now while I'm in here with a camera asking him to move to different perches. If there's something very interesting happening outside, like there's a kind of a patch in the parking lot right outside of his kind of enclosure here that usually has a little puddle where there are usually lots of birds bathing. So oftentimes he will be watching those, bobbing that tail. So right now he's kind of going, okay, you're in here. What do I need to do in order to get some food? So we're bobbing that tail a lot. So this is something really helpful for you if you're looking for American kestrels out in the wild. I'll usually see them in those big open grassy areas. I'll actually see them often if I'm in a more kind of rural country area where you have those really big open grassy ditches and kind of farmer field type areas. I'll see it'll be a single bird standing on top of an electrical line or kind of a low perch. Really acrobatic flight today, goodness. And you'll see them, it'll be just the one bird bobbing their head and flicking their tail. It's a great way of being able to tell that you're looking at an American kestrel. He might fluff out all of his feathers here. He's got all of his feathers kind of fluffed out. Might do a little bit of a rouse here. Coming down to this like little perch down here. So I'm trying to not move the camera too fast. He's doing what we call feeking, or kind of rubbing his beak on that perch. Helps clean off the beak and also helps keep his beak nice and sharp by rubbing his beak on different materials like rocks or branches, or by eating animals that have bones in them, things like that. He's able to kind of keep that beak in great shape. Since again, just like our fingernails and toenails, it's made out of keratin, so that beak is always growing. You want to make sure that it's staying the right length, nice and sharp. And as we're kind of getting done with eating our food, you can see he's kind of fluffing those feathers out. It's getting pretty warm outside, but you still want to stay nice and warm, nice and comfortable. Let me just go back and see if there are any questions that I've been missing. I think that was most of them. Thank you again so much for everyone who's joined us and been watching. Where are we going? So everyone who's been watching and asking questions, we'll go back and we'll go see our bald eagle here one more time. So I'll kind of back out of here as he's kind of in his little tree house. These tree houses are they're genius. They actually have, sorry, trying to close this. They actually have a heater on the inside. You can see some of the cords for that in the back. So American kestrels right now here in Minnesota, they have all moved down south for the southern US and Central America for the winter, since it gets a little bit too cold here. But all of our American kestrels, they have kind of heaters on the inside of these trees, so they can stay outside a little bit longer in the winter. Oh, and thank you. I did not mention his name. I mentioned that these stripes on his face, those kind of built-in sunglasses, are called Malar stripes. And that's actually what we named this bird, after those Malar stripes. So we call him Malar. M-A-L-A-R. Yeah. Awesome questions, everyone. Let's go back. We'll see our Max one more time. We'll wrap up here. But these questions have all been fantastic. Every time I end a video with this bald eagle, I always question my judgment because I come over to see one of the possibly loudest birds here at the Raptor Center. But I wanted to give you one last view of this really incredible bald eagle. Again, this is a bird who has done a lot of the really experimental testing with us here at the Raptor Center, as I keep thinking that she's done. There we go. As we really have transitioned to really online programs. I got nothing for you. Because yeah, somebody very helpfully asked in the chat, here maybe we'll move away. Someone very helpfully in the chat was asking if we are actually open to the public during COVID. So we are not actually open to the public. Here, we'll take a look at this red-tailed hawk while we're sitting in here. So we're not actually open to the public. We have been doing some off-site programs at places like various schools or especially outdoor events over the summer and the fall. But as we're looking into the winter, we're doing mainly online programming. So a lot of these birds, the bald eagle that we just saw, Max, and then this is one of our red-tailed hawks who we call Luta. These birds have been some of the really main birds who have been that we've been working with and who've been working with us as we transition to a lot of these online programs. So it's really been incredible to work with these birds to be able to kind of get these this kind of education, this environmental education, and kind of at least virtual interaction with seeing wildlife like this up close into a lot of different schools and community events and things like that. So we've been really, really fortunate to have so many people supporting us as we do all of that. It's been amazing to see how many people have been interested in seeing these birds online. We've just been really, really floored by the number of people who've just been so excited to see these birds, and we've been really excited to show people these birds really up close in a way that we really haven't been able to in a kind of a live format, which has been really cool. I think we need to go somewhere. So I will say again, if you missed at the beginning, today is, of course, Give to the Max Day for a lot of different organizations here in Minnesota. So we here at the Raptor Center, we've dropped a link. Still vocalizing. I'm trying to find a good bird to stand in front of who's not yelling. There's one more bald eagle. Let's go see one more bald eagle. It's usually a little bit more quiet. Here we go. Here's another bald eagle. This is a bald eagle who we call Gladdy. You have one big vocalization. There we go. And lots of people have been really supportive of Storytime, our Reading with Raptors on Tuesdays. If you haven't been seeing that, definitely come and check us out every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. We are reading a children's book or a picture book with a bird really close up, talking about the bird, usually seeing them eat some food or things like that. So you definitely check us out there. Keep an eye on both our Facebook page for more updates about today here at the Raptor Center. We're going to be posting a lot more really cool stuff, but keep an eye in the future as we are doing more and more of these online programs. Lots of really great things that we're working on, so definitely keep an eye on that. You can also find us at theraptorcenter.org. And again today, both in the description of the video link and then also one of the first comments that was posted on this video was the link to the actual Give to the Max site, where you can look more at what our fundraising goals are, learn a little bit more about that, and help support us on our mission. Again, it's not just the birds up here in our education department, but we also have, like I said, about 1,000 wild raptors who are coming through our doors every year. And again, they are not leaving their forwarding addresses. So most of the veterinary care that those birds are receiving is really being supported by members of the public, just like all of you. So thank you all again so much. With that, I will sign off, but thank you all so much for joining me and asking so many amazing questions. I always have so much fun doing these. Hopefully you enjoyed joining us as well. Definitely check out those links on our site and on this page. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Thursday and a great rest of your Give to the Max day.